All right. Good afternoon, Valerie. Welcome. How you feeling
Hi,
today?
thank you. Turn my volume here. There we go.
Okay. All right. Well, just before we start, I just want to let you know that, this is being recorded and everything we say will stay confidential between the two of us. This is a open and safe space for you to speak freely. It won't be shared with anybody or anyone else except my instructor. So, um, the only things I do have to share, obviously, is if, self to yourself or self-harm to yourself or harm to somebody else is brought up or, that kind of stuff. So, you have any questions before we move forward?
I don't think so. I think that sounds pretty clear.
Okay. All right. So can you tell me a little bit what brought you here today?
Well, years ago when I was a teenager, I used to self-harm and I did it for a number of years. Um, in the early, I think it was like maybe 2014 or something like that, I had stopped and I had a job that really held a lot of accountability for me. Um, that had a lot of purpose for me, and I had started developing some different coping skills and things like that. So I was actually able to stop for an extended period of time. But over the last 2 years, my depression that had already my depression kind of comes in waves, and it kind of hit this really massive wave that just hasn't ended over the last 2 years, and things started feeling out of control again. I quit the job that I was in, so I kind of lost that sense of purpose and I lost that routine. And so I had started self harming again, not to the extent that I used to. But there's a lot less accountability in it because I was in a helping profession where I was expected to help other people. And so I had to role model for people. And now I'm not in that position where there's a little bit more pressure for me to not do it. So, it's something that I recognize is an issue, even though there's a huge part of me that doesn't really care to address it, but I know that it needs to be addressed. I know from history that it just gets worse, not better, if it's not. Um, so, so I finally, a recommendation of a friend, finally just decided to suck it up and try to get help again for it. See if I could go through round 20, doing this.
That's good. I'm glad you're here. We'll work on getting you back to where you were. So basically, you you get the bouts of depression again. So you feel like self-harming because you don't have that accountability and the structure you used to have with your previous job, right? Where you were actually helping people, which kind of gives you a sense of purpose as well. So maybe you lost that sense of purpose too, and which kind of, could also affect your depression as well, correct?
Yeah, it definitely exacerbates it. I'll say that.
Yes. And it's kind of hard, to do a job where you want to help others, knowing that you can't help yourself as well.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
understand that. Okay. Let's see. So right now, like, what are some things you feel like you're struggling with?
Um, the big things that seem to come up repetitively that I've honestly like affected sleep. Sleep is not good right now either. So forgot to mention that, but yeah, sleep is not good. Um, things go through my head. A lot of it is that loss of purpose. I had started working towards trying to regain some of that sense of purpose last year, but a lot of that came unraveled. Um, so really not having that purpose and not having the strong social connections that I had previously, those are really big factors that are making it more difficult for me to even care whether or not I self-harm. Like that, yeah, I care a lot more when I have those things, and it's making it really hard to even care about changing.
Right. Well, sleep is definitely a big factor. I
Yeah.
know that very well. So, okay. So, are you working towards getting back into that profession?
Um,
Or
I
are
so
you
I
looking
had
to do
opened
something
up
different?
a LLC last year to try to get away from some of the more like bureaucracy type things that made me leave the job in the first place. But I recognize that really haven't put a huge amount of effort in building that and expanding it. And so it's just kind of sitting there. So, and part of that was the connection too, because I had been working with a partner towards that. And then I kind of lost that partnership. And so then I kind of threw my hands in like, well, screw it all, and I'm just not going to do anything then. And, so I had been working on it on and off. I'll work on it. I'll get through those moments of excitement where I'll work on it for like 10 minutes and then that bout of depression will come in and I'm like, why the hell are you doing that? And I'll get that imposter syndrome and I'm like, who are you to think that you can even do that? And you shouldn't be doing that. And so then I stop again and then I'll get the bout of 10 minutes and then I'll do it again. And so it hasn't been consistent enough for me to build that. I've considered going back into the field, but I can't deal with the bureaucracy anymore with it. That was really disrupting my mental health too.
Okay. All right. So what do you wish to gain from from our sessions together? What things would you like to work on?
Um, I think I think a big part of it will probably be that renewed purpose really needs to be there. Without that, nothing else matters. And that like really gets my depression into really dark places that really exacerbates the self-harm behaviors because I just stop caring. So without purpose, I just don't care about anything else. So I know that that's a huge part of it. And I know that building up that business and addressing the imposter syndrome and that sense of self-worth and things will be a huge part of it. Because if those things don't get addressed, then I'm not going to be able to move forward really, no matter where I go. I'm not going to feel good enough for any of it. So
Okay, so regaining that sense of purpose seems like it would be one of the biggest factors for you to be able to start moving forward. But in order to do that, you have issues with trusting the system, or kind of working with somebody else, because you have bouts of uncertainty or, you don't agree with what they're saying. So, it's kind of difficult for you currently to be able to work with somebody as well.
sometimes I get in my head a lot, and I've had so many things not work that sometimes it's hard to trust that it could be like
It could be better.
hope is not there right now. And so hope is a huge, huge factor. So even like going to a therapist, like that lack of hope, I get in my head of like, well, why are you doing this again? It's not going to work.
Okay. So what makes you feel like you're ready to start working on this now?
Well, there's going to come a point when I run out of savings and I'll have to make money. So, I'm definitely going to have to get
It's
over
important.
whatever is keeping me from building that business for sure, or suck it up and deal with, being under management, like a really, really poor management like I was before. So I recognize that in order for me to have financial security, I'm going to have to do that. But also, like, purpose and identity is really everything. And I've been kind of wandering around, just lost, not really being able to find myself again. And I can't keep living, like, I can't keep waking up crying or like staying up all night thinking about this stuff. And it's really disruptive to just doing really basic things like cleaning or, taking care of the dog. And
Yes, depression actually, yes, it can be very difficult to feel motivated to do anything when you're feeling depressed. And your lack of sleep also, doesn't help with that either. See if we can work on those. Okay. What are some things you've tried in the past that have worked for you and some things that haven't worked for you?
well, there are some down regulation things I've done with breathing strategies that there may be a couple that have been helpful to any degree, but I hate it Like you go and see someone, the first thing they come up with is, you know what, we're going to take a minute to breathe through this. I'm like, oh my God, are you freaking serious right now? This is the dumbest thing ever. So a lot of those have really not been effective in the moment, but there have been a couple of those that have used consistently. Um, Honestly, the thing that pulled me out the first time when I stopped self-harming was exercise. So I started lifting weights. I had never lifted weights before. I'd never been athletic. And I started lifting weights. And that was a huge, huge thing that really made me feel like I was in control. If I could control nothing else, at least I could control that. Um, so that is something that I still do. And it's what's kept me from being even deeper than I could be in my depression. So that definitely, that and having some sense of accountability, like when I completely isolate and I'm not around anyone, there's no one to be accountable to. So it doesn't matter if I, cut myself or, do like really risky behaviors or anything because no one's there to make me care about it. So I recognize that having that social interaction helps.
Yes, I could agree with that. Okay. Um, let me see. So what are some things that you think you want to stick with? Like stick with the exercise. That's been very helpful. Just, find somebody to be accountable. Do you have a coach you work with or anything, or somebody you can be accountable to?
I'm actually really accountable with the weightlifting. Like that's something that is such an ingrained part of who I am that I've been able to maintain that accountability pretty well. But my coach he's honestly been probably the most consistent support that I've had over the last 10 years. Even emotionally, like he's a very, very close friend of mine. I actually started working for him. So even though I have my own business, I will be helping him build his business as well and do personal training and stuff for him. So he's been a huge, huge support emotionally. He's very, very stoic and very practical with things. So sometimes he doesn't know what to do about the emotional stuff. So he hasn't been able to really provide that. He wants to help. He just doesn't do emotional things well. So
Yes, I can understand that. Um, so you said, possibly work with your coach, right? So that doing some work with him could help you financially as well. And that was
yeah,
one of the
that
things you
has been
brought up.
helping some.
Okay.
Yeah.
That also will get you out of the house, so it won't keep you isolated. It, forces you to be around other people, which is helpful. Even though we don't like it, I mean, that's just how
Yeah.
humans are designed to be around other people. So, okay, so what are some goals you want to work on before our next session in between now and then?
Um, I think I think maybe trying to find a support to be able to hold me more accountable for some of the emotional stuff, like accountability for like the self-harm, even just the thoughts of it, even if I don't act on it. And also hold me accountable for starting the stuff with the business to be able to provide because some of the trainings I've been through recently and things I want to build upon have been so significant and I do want to do them, but I recognize that my self-worth is holding me from even taking like I spent a significant amount of time trying to figure out how to put up like a Facebook cover picture like over the last week. And like that should really not be the primary focus of like delaying my business because I have to have the perfect cover picture for Facebook to be able to, just stupid things like that I recognize is just procrastination. So having someone hold me accountable for doing things that I need to do to be able to start building that business for my purpose.
Do you have somebody in mind that you could talk to about that?
Um, I know that my coach has a lot going on too with his own life. So I don't know. I mean, he would. I know that he would do that. Um, maybe one or two people where I volunteer to could possibly do some of that. Um,
Well,
that's been a
even
little bit harder.
you can be accountable to yourself. I mean, maybe a journal, writing things down every day, keeping track. That's a good way of being accountable to yourself, making sure you keep track of everything. And then you could bring that with you next session and we could see, where the progress you made with your goals or what we want to adjust in the next session. Um, okay, so, um, as far as like the self-harm, is there anything that maybe will trigger it immediately, for you to start doing it, or is there something specific, or is it just you're feeling depressed that day and it's something you feel like, you know,
It tends to be when there's more of like that sense of desperation. So the depression I'm used to generally, but it'll hit points of intensity where there's like this desperation where it's like I can't escape. Feels like I'm just kind of trapped in it and I can't see a way out. And so I get really overwhelmed and it feels kind of like the walls are closing in on me. And I feel that really intense sense of desperation. Also, when I think back to some of the loss of purpose that I've had over the last year, that's been a major trigger for it over the last year for sure. So I've had that a little bit more under control, but like when I do think about it, it's really that intensity of emotion sometimes.
yes, I've experienced a loss of purpose and I understand that can be very difficult to go through. So. Okay,
Yeah.
so as far as for our next session, some of your goals, we'll work on working on your accountability, right? Maybe finding somebody to be accountable with, or even just journaling it, so you can be accountable to yourself. Um, you're working on your financial goals, maybe not as fast as you want, but you're still working on it, so that's a positive thing. Um, is there any other resources or support that you think you could use that would help you reach these goals?
Um, if I had that partnership back that I had initially with that that business, that would be super helpful because that person was really skilled at business development and my coaches too, actually, but he's just a little bit more limited on time, I think. I don't know, like I keep going and saving YouTube videos for different things, so it'd probably be helpful if I go and like watch them, instead of spending an hour saving a bunch and then not watching them to actually learn stuff. So that would be I know that's a resource, but I keep getting in my head and getting overwhelmed with it, so then I stop.
Um,
Even if I
have,
made a goal to like watch two of them a day or something.
have you maybe thought of a plan, what you can do if you feel the urge to self-harm come on again? Have you thought about developing a plan at all? Maybe there's somebody you can call, that understands your situation, or go to the gym, go for a walk, spend time with the dog, something just to take your mind off of it.
Um, there have only been two people really who have been helpful in that co-regulation when I've been in that state, and unfortunately both are kind of unavailable. But I think getting out is something whether or not I want to, but force myself because there's a lot of shame around it, and so it's like a really secretive, ritualistic thing when I'm like by myself, and so when I'm outside and out, in public or walking or something, there's like I'm not going to do it then. So I think creating that distance from home would probably be the
Yes,
only plan right now.
it's still a plan. It would be very helpful. So, okay, so I think that's about all the time we have for today. Do you have any questions?
Don't think so.
No? Okay, so when we meet next time, we'll discuss your progress towards your goals, see where you are with your business. See if you were able to find anybody to help you, for some support, or if you decide, to do it on your own for now, that's, you know, we can work towards the other one. Um, you know, come up with a plan to help with your self-harm. Like you said, going for a walk is always a big one. Exercise, obviously, it's been a big part of your recovery. So if can really get back into that, that seems to be something that could really be helpful for you. And we can discuss all those things next time you come back. Do
Right.
you have
Sounds like
anything
a
else?
plan.
Okay.
So,
Well, then I will see you next time.
all right.
Thank you very much.